Welcome to another in the series of one-chart tutorials. This tutorial, entitled How to Record Observation Exclusion Times, will show us how to accurately record each time a patient leaves the floor once they're an observation patient. To begin, we will have accessed Care Compass and established a relationship with our patient. Immediately notice the observation designation right next to the patient's name with the letters OBS. We'll continue by selecting the patient's name to open the chart, and then navigate through the table of contents to where we can find the Observation Events tab and select this. Before we continue, let's take a look at the patient's banner bar, where we'll also see an additional observation designation right next to the FIN number. Here we clearly see the word observation displayed, letting us know that the patient is an observation patient. On the screen, we will notice the observation ticker displayed, where you actually see a chronological counter for the amount of time that the patient has been designated as an observation patient. Notice the various columns that are displayed, one of which is for exclusion. This is where you'll actually see the calculated time for the amount of time the patient has been off the unit at either a radiology exam or a procedure or any other reason that the patient may need to leave the floor. To record an observation exclusion time, we will navigate to the plus sign button at the top portion of the window and click the drop-down. You'll notice the two options display, one of which is Add Order, and this would be used in the event that the order had not actually been placed for why the patient was leaving the floor. By selecting Add Order, this would take you to the patient's order profile, where you would be able to search for the procedure or exam that needs to be recorded. For this tutorial, we will assume that the order has already been placed and we only need to record the exclusion time. We'll continue by clicking on the Add Exclusion Time option from the drop-down. Before we continue, it's important to note that now that the exclusion pop-up window has displayed, this information will be recorded retrospectively. We record this retrospectively because all of the information needs to be recorded at the same time in order to save the event. Simply entering the start date and time would not allow the Save button to be illuminated, and you would not be able to save your documentation. It is therefore easiest to record all this event when the patient has actually returned to their room and you are attending to the needs of the patient now that they're back in their bed. We'll begin by entering the exclusion description, would be why they left the floor. You do not need to be very specific in terms of details, but you can be as detailed as you wish. We're going to record that our patient had left the floor for a CT of the head. Once you've recorded the exclusion description, navigate to the Start Date field and click into this. You can either type in the date, navigate to the calendar, which will display the calendar dates, or in the date field, simply type in the letter T, and that pulls in the current date. Next, click into the Start Time field and type in the time that the patient actually left the floor. Continuing, we will click into the End Date field. Once again, we will type in the letter T to pull forward the current date. Notice that the Save button is still not illuminated and the duration calculator is still blank. Once I click into the End Time field, I can type in the letter N, which will pull forward the current time. And now we see that we have a duration calculated to 40 minutes and the Save button has now been illuminated. Once I click on Save, notice that the screen automatically refreshes and we see our exclusion event displayed in the list. Take a look at the exclusion column and you'll see that the counter has now increased by 40 minutes. These exclusion event times need to be recorded for every time your patient leaves the floor. To review any of the events from the list, simply hover over the detail and select it, and you'll be able to review or change some of the information if it was incorrectly recorded. To delete an event, simply navigate to the button located under the Room/Bed column and click on the drop-down, and then select Delete, and your event will be deleted from the list. You're prompted to confirm your deletion. If you did this in error, you could simply click No, the box would close, and your event would still be listed on the screen. This concludes the tutorial on recording observation exclusion event times.